Hello and welcome to LARP. It's not just tabletop standing up.
Hooray.
Real quick, just so you know, there'll be a QR code at the end of these slides. It'll let you save the slides because we're going to, at the very end, rattle off a whole bunch of LARPing opportunities so that you can bring them home with you. If you have to slip out early and you want the slides, you can find them on my Blue Sky, luckoftheharbor.com. You'll find my Blue Sky. Real quick for the room, who in this room has LARPed before?
Yay!
Okay, awesome. And so the rest of you, who in this room is LARP curious?
Woo!
Okay, that's what we were hoping for. Oh, come on. There we go. Welcome to the panel. We're going to do a quick introduction. I'm Natalie Pudum, otherwise known as Nat. I'm a fairly new LARPer. I started LARPing in October 2024. But I tend to whole-ass things. I'm incapable of half-assing things. So in March, I'm traveling to Poland for a LARP. I've already won I was honorably mentioned by the Golden Cobra LARP Writing Awards for writing a LARP. I've jumped in both feet. This is the coolest thing I've ever done, and I'm so excited to share it with you. On top of that, I'm a game designer. You can find my games at luckoftheharbor.com. Let's hop over to Soraya.
What?
Soraya. Introduce yourself.
Okay, I thought we were gonna go.
I have your name first on my slides.
All right, cool. Hi, I'm Soraya Spinner. I am also a LARPer and LARP designer. I also am a sensitivity reader for various LARPing, tabletop, fanfic, book, games. Just try to make the hobby more inclusive and less harmful for those who are of a marginalized persuasion. I've been LARPing since 2017. I had to do some math. I started out with a Vampire the Masquerade LARP, and then I moved over to more of like what people might traditionally think of LARPing, of games with like foam swords and fighting and magic, and then have expanded out. I have written a few LARPs. I've co-written a few LARPs, I've facilitated a few LARPs, and I have played a fuck ton of LARPs.
Jax.
Hello, I'm Jacqueline Brick, otherwise known as Jax Romana on the internet. I have been LARPing since 2010. Hi guys, if you're going to sit in the back, please come sit a little bit forward if you can. Thank you. We don't have a splash zone for this panel, promise. If you can't find any seats, that's fine. You can sit wherever you're comfortable, but we prefer people closer. I've been LARPing since 2010. I have played foam swords and fighting LARPs. I've played Vampire the Masquerade LARPs. I've played LARPs where there are no rules more than cops and robbers. I've written LARPs. I host a small con in the Mid-Atlantic region called Nauticon Con. I have professionally written LARPs. I have written LARPs as a hobbyist. I have a Golden Cobra for one LARP and an honorable mention for another. I have been doing this for a solid third of my life, so I like to think I'm, experienced.
Right. So why did I put together this panel? I started LARPing, like I said, fairly recently, and I came in a very experienced TTRPG player, and I came in with full confidence. I knew what LARP was going to be like, and I was entirely wrong. And I suspect some of you might be wrong too if you're guessing what LARP is and what it's going to feel like. And the two people who shepherded me into LARP are my co-panelists, Jax and Soraya. So I brought them to stand in front of you and hopefully get you ready. The other thing is LARP can be hard to find your way into. There's not many ways into the community. The community is really amazing. It can be a little gatekeepy, to be honest, but when you see how amazing it is, you see why people keep the gates. But I always like to make things open and accessible and bring new people in, so I'm hoping to show you guys ways to find your way into LARP if you want to. Lastly, a LARPer's favorite thing besides LARPing is talking about LARPs. We love to tell our stories about the crazy stuff we've done in game and recount them. So this is our chance to sit with a captive audience and talk about LARP.
Hell yeah.
All right, so what is LARP? LARP, you might have heard, is an acronym, live action role playing. The community is actually trying to de-acronym it, like SCUBA. which is self-contained underwater breathing apparatus, which is now its own thing. LARP, as it's becoming there's people who want it to be viewed as a higher form of art, so they're asking for it to be not all capitalized. It's I often will describe it when I'm trying to make people think I'm fancy as an improvised, immersive play where participants are both cast and audience. A typical LARP, you might get your role that you're playing and maybe some relationships, and then you're going to act for all intents and purposes and come up with your lines, and you're in the space and the play is happening around you. When I'm being less fancy, I will often describe it as playing pretend for grown-ups. When you were on the playground, used to play Power Rangers and argue over who was what Power Ranger. This is just that, but with grown-up like negotiation abilities and our ability to come up with rules and reasoning and deconflict things. It is also kind of tabletop standing up. It's not just tabletop standing up. But we titled the panel because we heard someone starting a LARP who was like, I've never run a LARP, but I've run tabletop, and it's just tabletop standing up. And we were like, yeah. So panelists, how do you describe LARP when your cousins are asking what you're traveling to do? What do you tell them LARP is?
Oh gosh, usually I try to find a reference point almost immediately. Something that's been really helpful is Sleep No More and Masquerade, which are those immersive theater experiences in New York City. I've been like, well, it's kind of like that, except you are also the actors and also the audience, which mentioning your whole immersive play thing. And when I'm trying to describe it on resumes, I usually say like immersive experiences. I also tend to say, hey, are you familiar with murder mystery parties? Yeah, you can do that in any genre.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of do the same thing. For me, I think of it as, embodied play. If I'm feeling fancy. And for the most part, I'm like, so D&D, we're kind of like that, only nerdier. Role play, if you like putting on a little outfit and adopting a persona and being the character, that's what we do.
To Jax's point about murder mystery parties, I often get anxiety at murder mystery parties because there's not enough buy-in. I don't know how into my character I should be or out of your character. LARP is like a murder mystery party where everyone is 100% bought in.
Yeah.
And you can really do voices and do things.
It's funny because I feel the same way about Renaissance fairs.
Yes.
Yes. I get very, very anxious around Renaissance fairs because I'm like, okay, how much history are they playing with? Because if I go talk to Sir Francis Drake, is he going to tell me about his letter of marque, or is he just going to be like, hello, I'm hot? And am I going to be able to talk to him about the golden age of piracy, or is he just going to throw a drink in my face and walk away? I need to know what the buy-in is here.
Yeah.
And with the LARP, it's like a social contract with the rules and the mechanics and signing up. Okay, for example, I run a LARP that is set in the 1960s, dealing with a very particular thing that happened in American history.
MK Ultra.
Okay, MK Ultra. And as part of the rules and the player's guide, I let them know, hey, this is how much history we're using. This is what you need to know. Feel free to go ham with costuming. We're in the period. You don't have to feel afraid going too far in character, with a caveat, but you can commit to the bit.
And similarly, we will be running Pokemon Mall UN later this weekend, in which you are either playing gym leaders or members of different teams, or in one case Mewtwo or a Ditto, and your sheet will tell you what you know and what you want, and that is a pretty cool way of leaning into that and building on that.
All right, so what makes LARP magical? These are the things that I didn't realize coming from tabletop that would be different about LARP and really make it a totally new experience. The biggest thing for me was the narrative point of view. When you're playing a tabletop game, the camera is often at the table level. It's an ensemble story, right? everyone is on screen at once, or even when the party splits, the camera is only showing one of them at once because you've got one GM. Or even if you're doing a GM-less game, like the table can't have two conversations going at once very easily. But in LARP, you are the camera. Everything that you see, there will be playing in LARPs and finding out about all the plot lines that I did not interact with and did not see that were happening across the room because I was the camera and I was not in that part of the room, was really wild to me. It really makes you feel like the main character, even though everyone is getting that feeling and you don't want to drama hog, but because it's less of an ensemble story and more about you. The other thing that kind of bounces off of that is concurrent storytelling. Everything is happening at once. And so that can lead to you causing effects across the room that you never see, and things are happening there, and then they come back and bounce and affect you. Another is embodiment. I found I rarely cry when I play tabletop role-playing games, even when something emotional is happening. I cry all the time in LARP, just because you are there, and you are feeling these things, and you are in your body. And when you sit, you're sitting in character. When you do anything, you're doing it in character. One of my favorite moments was I was in a LARP and things were really stressful and I was playing this like high femme matriarch woman, and I just took 10 minutes aside and went to a mirror and fixed my makeup in character just for me. And like that felt so embodied and like just my body was something. Also costuming. I see we have some cosplayers in the room. Costuming isn't a part of every LARP, but it's a part of a lot of them. And there's all sorts of opportunities to do costuming and play with your cosplay skills in LARP. And then lastly is use of space. You'd be surprised what like having a whole room can do, that you can spread out and, you know, lounge across couches while you're in character and things like that. So panelists, what makes LARP magical to you?
Do you want to start?
Yeah, I like agree with everything that Nat has said. Like the embodiment, like I like doing things in character, even the most mundane things. You can pretty much do anything in character, and just to think about how does your character do X, Y, and Z. Yes, there are some LARPs where you sleep in character, you eat in character, you pee in character. How do they do that? I also enjoy, from like a design point of view, just some of the things that you're able to turn into mechanics, and some of the things that you're able to embody. Just all the different ways. I feel like it opens up like a new way of like game design. Like, ooh, how can I get my LARPers to drink water at their LARP? I'm going to make it a mechanic to where you have to drink water for X, Y, and Z reason. And if you don't, you die, literally, or whatever. I am also a big fan of costuming. I just love seeing the energy that people bring, especially my friends. Like I know Nat and Jax, and just the characters that I've seen them play versus who I know them to be, I'm like, I didn't know you had that in you. So
Same.
that's several of the reasons.
I'm going to interpret this question fairly literally. There is a concept in sociology called the magic circle, if any of you are familiar with it. Are any of you familiar with it? Hell yeah. Thank you for those of you who are. So the magic circle is, in very brief and very broad terms, the idea that we are drawing a circle around ourselves where these rules apply in this circle, and when we leave this circle, those rules no longer apply. So, for example, with Soraya's drink water mechanic, you need to drink a certain amount of water or you'll start losing health points or magic points, or your character will move more slowly, or whatever sort of system the LARP has set up. Obviously, once you're no longer at the LARP, you don't have to worry about draining your magic points or your health points as such. But you are all agreeing that in this space, that is what happens. And that is something that is really cool to me, to be able to sort of create that magic circle consensual reality, even for a few hours. and be able to exist in that and know that the emotions that I'm playing there are high stakes emotions, but in a low stakes environment. And in a certain way, for me, as someone who has ADHD and OCD and CPTSD and all sorts of other acronyms, it's a really great way for me to be able to sort of practice emotional regulation and what to do if I'm emotionally dysregulated. And being able to have those high stakes emotions in low stakes environments has been really healing and helpful for me.
Awesome. All right. So what kind of LARPs are there? We've talked about some about Boffer and things like that.
Boffer is the foam swords
Yes.
bonk.
Yes. If you're hitting someone with a foam sword, we typically call that Boffer.
Yeah.
Freeform LARPs are going to be usually a little bit less mechanic light, and you're going to be maybe playing a character with some background. Maybe you're going to make your character in the moment and play something. Jax, will you tell us about Nordic LARPs?
I sure will. So there is a very large LARP convention in, I believe it's Norway.
It rotates.
Does Newtpunk rotate?
It does. It rotates.
Oh, okay, because I know there was also... Anyway, so Newtpunk is a LARP convention that takes place in Scandinavia, apparently. And they will publish, like, zines on sort of designs that they're going with. And there was a manifesto, and I haven't been able to actually find the manifesto itself, but there was a manifesto sometime in the 2010s that was like, here are the sort of LARPs we are looking for at Newtpunkt. We will collectively refer to them as Nordic LARPs or Nordic LARPing. Now, Nordic LARPing is not the only type of LARP that takes place in the Nordic countries, because there are a lot of crunchy, high mechanics.
They love their battle games.
WYSIWYG. We'll get to WYSIWYG in a moment. WYSIWYG, like high production value games in the region, but this term Nordic LARP basically started becoming a meaningless marketing term essentially once it left Newtpunkt, because a bunch of Americans who were writing less mechanic LARPs were like, oh, we finally have a term for this. But then it started also meaning high production value LARPs. And then it started meaning LARPs that we consider artsy, and LARPs that we want to keep people who we don't like out of, and LARPs that are not American and therefore better. And it's very, very frustrating to me as somebody who writes freeform LARPs a lot of the time to go, oh, Jax, you're a Nordic designer.
I love it when that happens.
First of all, if we're going from my heritage, no, I'm Polish and German, thank you. Second, if we're going, I've never been to Scandinavia, so I cannot possibly be a Nordic designer. Maybe my LARPs fit the definition of invite only. Like, some of my LARPs are invite only, some of my LARPs are I will pick the people who are playing the LARPs, but maybe it fits, but you will see people describe LARPs as Nordic. It is a personal frustration to me when a LARP that is not run by a Scandinavian designer or isn't run at Newtpunkt is referred to as a Nordic LARP, because otherwise the term is meaningless.
Thank you for the rant, Jax.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. It's on the slide. Use the pause for Jack's rant.
Yep, I
did that.
Yeah.
If you see something that's tagged, at least here in the States, tagged as Nordic LARP, they're typically meaning, like what Jax said, some variation of freeform, parlor, maybe theater style LARPing. We'll get into that. I'm skipping ahead. Sorry.
It's either going to be very low production value or very high production value.
There is no in between.
Yeah.
Maybe mechanic light. Maybe there's a lot of it is.
It doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean anything.
It means LARPs that I think have artistic merit. By
Pretty
whoever
much.
wrote it. Yeah.
Nordic LARPing in the LARP community is like pornography and obscenity.
You'll know it when you see it.
Yeah.
Also, there's a wonderful LARP site called NordicLARP.org, which has a lot of articles on LARPing in general at this point, and I kind of begrudge them the name, but also they have a lot of really fantastic articles on like what LARPing is and LARP design and LARP theory and LARPs people have run and why they're cool.
Have managed to avoid Vampire and World of Darkness LARPs largely. Do you want to talk about them?
Sure. So they actually combine with the one on your slide after that, which is Secrets and Powers. So we can actually probably talk about those.
Oh, are we doing that?
Yeah. It's on the slide.
Do you want to talk about Secrets and Powers first, and then we'll talk about LARP?
You guys can talk about Secrets and Powers too.
So, okay, I just figured you'd introduce it, and then we can talk about it.
Secrets and Powers is one of those things that I also feel like is begrudging and
Fair.
people has a loose definition. So
For
I
a
would
little
like you
bit
to
of
define it.
background, there is a lot of region when you get further into the LARP community
Ecosystem, really.
You will find out that there is a lot of regionalism when it comes to LARP, just because these communities are kind of insular, and there's a lot of different types of styles of LARPing. A lot of times, like American LARP tends to get categorized as like boffer or battle games. Like I'm gonna hit you with a phone sword. There's limited role play. And even within America, Secrets and Powers is very big up in, I want to say New England,
yeah.
New England, because it was born out of MIT, the Assassins Guild. I'm sure a bunch of New England LARPers are cursing me right now for getting this history wrong. But like a lot of those LARPs tend to be Secrets and Powers, and what Secrets and Powers means is some characters have secrets, some characters have powers, and you're probably wondering, well, isn't that what all LARPs have? No. And sometimes even then sometimes we don't agree on terminology, because some people refer to Secrets and Powers as lit form.
Yeah, lit form or parlor games.
Or parlor games. But a lot of this stuff is basically regional.
Yeah.
So
for ease of access, Secrets and Powers LARPs are what we refer to as low transparency. So these are games where you are not talking to each other about your character sheets beforehand, usually. Some styles of LARPing, you will get your character sheet and you will see other people listed on your character sheet, and you'll go to them and be like, hey, I want this sort of play. Can we discuss that before game? Secrets of Powers LARPs tend to not involve a whole lot of pre-negotiation.
if you don't like spoilers, Secrets and Powers LARPs is for you.
Yeah. And they're not. A lot of Nordic LARPers tend to refer to Secrets and Powers derogatorily. A lot of Secrets and Powers LARPers tend to refer to Nordic LARPs derogatorily, and it's a whole thing. Vampire. So for those of you who are blessed enough to not know the history of White Wolf, Vampire the Masquerade came out in 1991. In actually the first edition of Vampire the Masquerade, in the first edition of the core book, the opening. Actually, I want from the audience, where do you think the first ever Vampire the Masquerade adventure was set?
Chicago?
No.
Shoot, it splits. We're outside Chicago. It's like, Gary?
It is. Good job, Gary, Indiana. Well done. Yeah, it's specifically set in a dying industrial town. And you are trying to curry favor with the prince, and one of the things it says in that adventure is, this would be better played as a LARP. It is in the first edition Vampire the Masquerade tabletop rulebook. You can look this up if you don't believe me. But yeah, no, LARP has actually been a part of the World of Darkness since it began. And part of that is because Mark Reinhagen really likes goth girls. He wanted to see goth girls in their goth kit and was like, hey, so what if I write a game based on Anne Rice?
Never do that.
Don't
Never do that.
Vampire LARPing is actually pretty thoroughly cemented across the world at this point. It is often, but not always, based off of the Mind's Eye theater system. You can find large national networks of it. I don't personally recommend network games just because it tends to devolve into a lot of administration and a lot of out-of-character power plays. They're a lot cooler in theory than they are in practice, in my experience. I'm not going to stop you from going to a network game. I'm not your dad.
You would want, what is it? It's not Mind's Eye Theater anymore.
Mind's Eye Society?
Is that who it is now?
Uh,
MES?
Yeah, MES, Mind's Eye Society.
Yeah, okay. You would want to look for Mind's Eye Society. The LARP room will also be running Vampire the Masquerade tonight at 7.
Yes, it is not a network game.
It's not a network game, so if you would like to
If you just wanna-
experience the joy of Vampire the Masquerade,
Yep. You can try it out. We will have that game for you.
yeah.
And now the polar opposite end, slow LARP. Slow LARP's a favorite of mine. It's kind of a newish movement in LARP.
Yes.
Where it's very little plot is happening. You're playing a moment in these characters' lives. You don't have really strong goals. This isn't the biggest day in these characters' lives. You're just playing a small piece of life.
I love slow LARPs. Well, some people don't, some people do, but they tend to be very slice of lifey, very, I wouldn't say meandering, but they tend to be like very player driven. There's not a lot of like LARP staff, and we'll talk a little bit about LARP staff. There's not a lot of LARP staff showing up and being like, here is a big event that happens. React to it.
Pervasive LARP. Pervasive LARP are LARPs that take place out in the real world. A well-run pervasive LARP will usually say if you're interacting with anyone if anyone is like, what's going on here? You immediately drop character and you say, oh, hi, you didn't consign to this game. We'll treat you like a normal person. But these LARPs, you'll go to dinner in character and talk to each other in character and not be weird to your waiter.
Yeah. A really well done pervasive LARP will take into consideration you will be interacting with the outside world, possibly. Some might even try to mechanize that. A really good example of a pervasive LARP is Sinking Ships Project Ascension and Scapegoat. Sinking Ships Creations runs out of New York City. They incorporate a lot of the history of the city. Oh my God, we made it 30 minutes without mentioning the word diegetic.
Oh my God. How? You can clap for us. This is a miracle. Yeah. Thank you. That's crazy. Diegetic is a word you're going to hear thrown around by LARPers a lot. And basically what it means is this out-of-character thing is part of the character. So, for example, if you have a character sheet that looks like a magazine, that it can be considered a diegetic character sheet. Diegetic documentation, diegetic music, you might know from movies.
Yeah.
So... Actually, another example of a pervasive LARP is running right here at MAGFest. If you're familiar with the zombie tag guys, they're wonderful. So they're actually a low character interaction because you're either a human or a zombie, but you are playing throughout the entire con. And, you're not really, as a zombie, you're not going to try and tag someone who's not playing. And it is very clearly marked who is playing, but the entire playground, instead of being Magnolia Room 1 and 2, which is where most of the LARPs are, your playground is the entire con.
If you've ever been to one of those cons, I think DecoCon is one of them, where the LARP is basically hey, you're a character from X, Y, and Z game. You have the whole convention. You can interact with each other outside. That is a pervasive LARP.
Do you want to talk about dance LARPs? I've never actually played one, but I've heard about them.
Basically, very simply, dance LARPs are LARPs that use dance as a mechanic. It's taking the embodiment of LARP and expressing that through dance. One of the coolest ones I've seen was actually someone who is descended from one of the desaparecidos of the Argentinian junta, writing a LARP called Desaparecidos, which is about the torture and brutality of the Argentinian junta, and you express being able to say goodbye to your loved ones, which a lot of the disappeared of Argentina did not get to do. You get to express that through tango, which is very cool.
Soraya, you ready to talk about debauchery LARP?
I'm always ready to talk about debauchery
Let's go.
LARPs. All right, debauchery LARPs. So most people didn't realize
Who likes debauchery? Hell yeah, debauchery. Let's go.
Hell yeah, debauchery LARP. So there are LARPs. Now you guys might be wondering, Soraya, you said you can do a lot of things in character. You can eat in character. You can sleep in character. You can pee in character. Can you have sex in character? Yes, you can. Waggling my eyebrows. Debauchery LARPs. So the name debauchery LARP is kind of kind of a bunch of LARPers being petty, but also realizing, damn, that's a good name.
Yep.
Nudapunkt, the Nordic Scandinavian LARPing Conference, puts out manifestos and zines, and somebody put out a manifesto.
A 300-word manifesto.
A 300-word manifesto, and God, those 300 words were just solid gold. Basically talking about how there is...
Do you want me to pull it up?
No, because
Okay.
because then we'll derail the conversation.
Yeah.
Basically, pause. So, like, going back, you can do a lot of things in LARPs. There's erotic LARPs where you're looking at intimacy and eroticism. Maybe sex, maybe doesn't include sex. With sex and LARPing, you can also have different types. You can have representative sex, like a mechanic known as Ars Armandi, where you are touching
Hands.
You can have it represented by sharing food, by coloring together, by doing an activity together. You can also do things like there's a game called, I think, Inside Hamlet, which used a dildo.
Oh, you're thinking of Just a Little Loving.
Oh, Just a Little Loving. Sorry.
It's okay. That one's specifically about the AIDS epidemic, and that was designed by the same people who designed Inside Hamlet.
Okay, gotcha. And then there's also, you can also do theater-style sex, dry humping, underwear stays on. And yes, there are games where you can, in fact, have sex with your genitals or not in character. And somebody wrote a 300-word manifesto about how these LARPs were kind of boring. Well, they were coming at it from, like, they're oversaturating the LARP market. What is the LARP market? It's just an excuse to get a bunch of people in a house to lust after each other. And I looked at that and I was like, thank you for doing my marketing for me. Some people use these as their first LARPs. I do not recommend it at all. Mm-mm. But if you're going to do it, please make sure you do your research. I mean, you should be doing your research with any LARP company, talking to people, vetting. There's some overlap with the kink community. But I would at least maybe say, with debauchery LARPs at least, maybe make it your second LARP.
Yeah. Maybe your third if you're nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm going to fly through these last few ones because I want to move through this side. You have virtual LARPs. Those are a thing. I've done a LARP where it was set up as a forum and we were all just chatting in a forum, and the LARP was set in 2002. And your character page was a MySpace page. There are LARP cons where you will play what people will call con LARPs, which are usually like 4 to 5 hours. You play, these LARP cons are a great way to try a bunch of different games. There's also what are referred to as blockbuster LARPs. These are usually weekend long with very heavy set dressing and costuming. I'm going to one later this year called Outbound Hope, where they've rented a decommissioned Navy destroyer and set it up to be a spaceship, and we are a one-way outbound mission. There's one in Montana that Soraya and I are doing this year that is based on Westworld, where they've rented a town where they shoot Western movies.
A backlot Western town.
Yeah.
Me and Jax have been to a LARP separately. We've been to a LARP that was Regency and set in like a very nice...
like an Episcopalian retreat center, so it had like all of the arches and like a lovely little courtyard that you could take a turn in, and, you know.
And if you go to, say, like Europe, you can in fact LARP in a castle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or a pirate ship.
Also, this is where the term WYSIWYG comes in. It stands for what you see is what you get. That is a sort of, it's not really a type of LARP, it's just a term for this LARP has a production value. So if you are interacting with this table, it is a table and, for example, not an altar. If you're interacting with a lower production value LARP, you will sometimes do theater of the mind, which is like, okay, imagine that this is this.
This is a chalice full of wine.
Chalice?
Chalice, whatever.
It's a sillies. I'm gonna put it around my throat and it's gonna stab me.
I realized I forgot to make that slide talking about the LARP community, but we'll have to talk about the LARP community separately. The LARP community, just to say, a lot more women and femmes in the LARP community than like the typical nerd community. The LARP community is very queer.
Yes.
I would say it depends.
Yeah.
It does
Yeah, it
depend.
does depend.
Battle games, your mileage may vary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we have any battle gamers up in here?
Yeah. What?
Do we have any battle gamers up in here? Okay.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
It,
LARP-
it does still tend to be very queer, though.
yeah. It tends to be
Yeah.
very queer. Tends to be very theater kiddie. There's a lot of theater kids in LARP.
Yep.
Just trying to chase that rush.
That high.
Yeah.
So, okay, how do I start? This is our very massive slide. Like I said, there'll be a QR code on the next slide where you can save this and come back and you can Google all these. You can start LARPing this weekend. In fact, we're going to Pied Piper you up to the LARP room after this. If you want to follow us and find your way to the LARP room, we'll take you up there, up in Magnolia 1 and 2. There's LARPs all weekend. This is a great place to try LARPing. You've already bought your pass for this. You're here. So why not give it a shot?
If you would like some easy to get into LARPs, tomorrow and Saturday I will be running freeform LARPs from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So if you're a Pearson at that time, we will be doing very low intensity, either very silly or very emotional games. And then tomorrow from 2:30 to 6, I think it is, we will be doing Pokemon Model UN, which has become very popular. We will be doing a series. We will be doing a council based on the FIFA negotiations and Olympic negotiations. So we'll be talking about a whole Pokemon sporting event that we all have to make agreements on. I know Soraya and Natalie are running LARPs this weekend
I'm
as well.
not.
Oh, you're not?
No, mine got dropped from the
Oh,
schedule.
I'm sorry.
I wrote an Animorphs LARP. That's very good.
Well, see, now you got to go to the LARP room and be like, department heads.
Yeah.
Put
Yeah.
Animorphs on the schedule next
He'll
year.
love that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure he'll love that.
Yeah.
Both of them will love that.
Oh, they will. In fact, I'm going to do it right now. I'm just kidding. I'm running, I guess you could call it a little bit of a slow LARP. It's My Maho Shoujo Life. It's a hybrid of magical girls and teen dramas. Episodic, so 50-minute episodes, very low buy-in, very silly.
It'll be fun.
It'll be a good time.
You don't have to be a girl to play.
You do not have to be a girl. I'm not a girl. Like,
It's true. I'm a girl.
If you thought hitting people with foam swords did sound fun, we have Drakenfest and Fable coming up.
oh yes, Drakenfest. I'll speak a little bit to Drakenfest.
Okay,
And Fable, since they're kind of.
Yeah.
So Drakenfest was Drakenfest US. This is the US version. Oh, the US version. What does that mean? Does that mean there's another version? Yes. There's Drakenfest, the original, which takes place in Germany. And then I believe there's also a Drakenfest in Australia now. Drakenfest is one of the largest LARPs in the world at this point, the original. And they, a few years ago, they did an offshoot in the United States that started in Pennsylvania. We know a few of the runners.
Yeah.
Takes place at Slippery Rock. So if you're familiar with Penzic, the same place that Penzic is, it's a big open field, and for a week they come together and they build a town, like a literal town. It's more like what you might think of when you first think of LARP, faction-based role play. Each faction has a different aspect or archetype. There's also the Enterprise, if you want to be like, well, I just want to play a silly little guy merchant. We got you, silly little guy merchants. Rise up. It takes place in June. It can be a little warm.
Yeah.
Also, if you like camping, that is what they have. So you'll have to bring a tent, or you can rent a tent. I have not been paid by Drachenfest. I just know a lot of people. As for Fable, Fable is kind of similar to Drachenfest in that it is faction-based roleplay, faction-based. There's battles, there's monsters, there's NPCs that you can interact with. Fable is a little bit different from Drachenfest, where Drachenfest is more of what we think of like European fantasy, like, oh, I'm going to play an orc, oh, I'm going to play an elf, oh, I'm going to play a Grail Knight. Fable is rooted in Americana, so the factions are kind of based off American history and culture. I was a facilitator for the New Orleans-based faction, which was kind of more of we were the gothy edgelords. So if you like gothy edgelord role-playing, come talk to me. And that's in Virginia. It's over Labor Day weekend. And you do not have to camp if you don't want to.
We have Intercon. We're all big Intercon people.
Yep. Intercon is a small-ish, it's growing LARP convention in Rhode Island. It is at the end of February this year. Happens usually around the end of February, start of March every year. It's pretty cool. It's a lot of what we refer to as parlor LARPs, which are LARPs that take place between 1 or 2 rooms. It's a lot of Secrets and Powers LARPs. It's a lot of lit form LARPs. Lit form LARPs are LARPs sort of in the Secrets and Powers vein, where you are handed a character sheet rather than being asked to create your own character. There's a lot of actually fairly interesting experimental LARPs that take place there too. So it's a great time. The vibes are phenomenal.
I'll be running my Animorphs LARP there, and I'm also running one based on the movie Bottoms, about a teen girl fight club.
I'm running one based on Warhammer 40K with no Warhammer 40K mechanics. It's all about women in the military.
I'm running it's not The Mummy, but it's inspired by The Mummy, a game about cursed artifacts from Egypt, and you're all trying to win them in the 1920s.
Mm-hmm.
There's also, that con is, like, most of the games are going to be full. If you went this year, it would be hard for you to get in a game. But I do recommend keeping an eye on Intercon. It's yearly, around near the end of February. It's a really great con. It's a really great way to dip your toe in. If you don't want to wait till then, Summer LARPin'. This summer is run by Allison Joy. It started with her wanting to get a bunch of friends to LARP, and then grew and grew and grew until she took over a whole hotel.
It's like Summer Intercon.
Yeah, it's Summer Intercon. In the middle of nowhere in Massachusetts. Nauticon Con.
So Nauticon Con is a convention that myself and the department head of LARP, Stephen Tasker, started because we wanted to have our own small convention and we wanted to invite our friends. Usually takes place either on the Delaware beaches or in the Poconos. We haven't set our site this year, but our dates will be November 12th through the 15th. If you follow Ruffle Feathers LLC on Facebook, you will see when the survey goes out. We have a little application survey just to make sure, just to keep the vibes good. But that application should be going out sometime before Intercon.
Cool. There's also the LARP Place Discord if you want to keep an eye out for like announcements of blockbuster LARPs. It's hard to put a hyperlink up here, but when we get to the next slide, there'll be a QR code. You can save these slides, go click on the link, and join the LARP Place Discord.
Mm-hmm.
No, go ahead.
Just as an aside, and kind of circling back to what you said about trying to find LARPs, it can be hard to find LARPs. I definitely recommend, if you're interested, if you don't do anything, please follow the LARP Place Discord. Yeah. A lot of LARP communities are fragmented. You might find out about them on Facebook. You might find out about them on Discord. You might find out about them on Reddit.
Mostly you're going to find out about them through word of mouth.
A lot of times word of mouth. So LARP Place Discord, number one.
A lot of regions have their own LARPs events. There's the LARP Shack in Durham. There's LARP Loft in New York City. Mm-hmm. I'm working on getting one started in Baltimore, but I didn't want to put it up here. But if you follow Highwire Improv, in Baltimore. I've been working with the Improv Theater to use their spaces to run LARPs in.
Yeah, LARP Shack and LARP Loft tend to be smaller freeform parlor LARPs. They do a lot of like weird experimental stuff, but they also do a lot of fairly easy introductory stuff as well. When I say easy, I don't want to dissuade you from trying weird experimental stuff, because often you're going to find what you like most is something weird and particular to you. But I also recognize that, like any hobby, there are barriers to entry. So we try to make the LARPs at MAGFest as low barrier to entry as possible. But, you know, if you're near New York or you're near Durham and you want to try something with a fairly low barrier to entry, you can follow either LARP Shack or LARP Loft on Facebook.
And then if you have a friend who's a LARPer, just ask. We love talking about LARPs.
Sure do.
I
Will
have
do.
a whole group of friends who every time there's a LARP I'm interested in, I DM them and I'm like, does anyone want to do this with me? So yeah, just make some friends up in the LARP room this weekend, and you'll get invited to a bunch of LARPs.
Yeah.
These are the QR codes, so you can get to the slides. Does anyone have any questions?
Please ask us questions.
Please ask us questions.
Yes.
So you all mentioned like between the intimacy and LARP, or a lot of like the emotional things that come up. What do you do for that offboarding, onboarding, for that experience to protect yourself?
I'm so glad you asked that. Soraya, you want to start?
Yes. Short answer: workshop and debrief. Longer answer: no, that's yeah. It's a variation of workshop and debrief. Just kind of setting expectations, setting ground rules, letting people know, reiterating in character versus out of character, player versus character. And then offering, once the LARP is over, offering space to kind of process, debrief, de-roll, like, hey, I am not Lady Georgiana Thompson, I am Soraya Spinner. Then also having constant like awareness of negotiation and calibration, like what might have been okay, like earlier today, hey, I don't want you to hold my hand, or hey, maybe we can ramp this up or we can dial this back.
I have two sayings that I really love in the LARP community. Before I get to the first one, how many of you have been playing in a tabletop game and it starts to feel like a second job? Yeah. So there is a saying in the LARP community and in other communities, but I learned it from the LARP community, which is player before game. And it is something that a lot of games try to reiterate. Some don't, and I kind of go at them. But the idea is that you are a person engaging in what is essentially a luxury hobby. It is not something you need to do to survive necessarily. And if you need to step out of the game to get a drink of water, to cry, to go ask for help, to go to sleep, if it's a LARP where you pee in character, you don't want to pee in character. Like, being able to take care of yourself is one of the most important things a LARP can remind you to do, because, we're all theater kids chasing a high, and sometimes we forget to do that. So being able to enforce that is helpful. The other one is no is a gift. How many of you struggle with rejection? Because I know I do. Yeah, hell yeah. RSD, crowd, rise up. Something that I have learned through LARP, and something that I think a lot of people in LARPing a lot of people in general could stand to learn, is the idea if somebody tells you no, that is not telling you are a bad person. It is not what's the word I'm looking for? When the IRS does the thing to you. Audit, thank you. It is not an audit of your entire personality. It just means they don't want to do that thing in that moment, and they felt comfortable enough to tell you no. And once we remind people that they're allowed to say no, and in fact, we would prefer them to say no, even if maybe they're unsure, then we can actually start building a space where we can lean in. Something that I personally struggle with is a lot of people will, and this has become unfortunately more common because of the rise of the far right, And side note, this is going to get a little political here. I apologize. I grew up far right, swung hard left. You know how it is. But a lot of people setting their expectations, when they're setting their expectations for the LARP, will be like, no Nazis. And if you're a Nazi, fuck you. And you can't play this LARP. And will devote half or the entire section of the LARP to that. And I don't find that super helpful. Because it sort of turns into a rant on why the game runner is good. And instead, I think we would be better served doing what a lot of other games are trying to do now, which is, if you like X, Y, and Z, come to this LARP. We will have this many hours of workshops. We will practice doing this, this, and this. We will also practice our communication tools. Like Sinking Ship has Button, which is an immediate, like, okay, we need to recalibrate this scene. And you can either use the sign language for button, or that's button?
Yep.
Oh, okay, I thought it was this. Button, or you can say button, or you can tap. And people already know that tap out from wrestling. So if you can also say tap out. Sinking Ship tends to use the Swiss cheese model of catching for intimacy, which is, okay, if this safety, what is the fail state for this safety or risk management tool? Okay, what do we put in that place? And just having layers and layers, and also being like, hey, if you say no, really no, like that means no.
There are some, not to belabor the point, but there are some games where, you know, you'll be expected to, I'm saying, my character is saying no, but me, the player, is saying yes. And there are some ways that LARPs can delineate between that. And then there are other LARPs who are just like, if you're saying no, you're saying no. Like,
yeah. And either one is fine.
Yeah.
It just, again, it depends on the expectations that you put forward. Thank you. That was an awesome question.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
Anybody else? Hi. We'll come to you in a sec.
Someone who comes from a background of TTRPGs,
Mhm.
one of the things that I find mildly infuriating is sometimes the people that I participate with may not be as into their own characters as, let's just say, some of the other people in the table. Would you say that this is alleviated in the LARP space?
I think it can be. I think, so we actually have a term for people who have a character and don't really play it, or like kind of hanging around complaining to staff. They're called logs. They are a problem because unfortunately you can't force someone to be into their character. And unfortunately sometimes those people will make that your problem. But in general, I would say it is less of a problem. Especially with clearly communicated expectations.
Yeah, especially with like the buy-in too. Like, I also do TTRPGs, and like for like say a session of Bluebeard Bride, like, okay, cool, I'm maybe out like an evening. So if I'm not 100%, like maybe I'll still be there, but not quite there. Whereas if a LARP that I'm going to, I have to go to the LARP. I have to get in my car and drive there.
Yeah.
I might have to pay something. I might have invested in a costume. I might have character ties with somebody. The stakes, it's a low stakes environment, but the stakes are a little bit higher, to where I find that more people, because of what they've put into it, they're more willing to go ham, just because it's like, well, I spent all this money. I don't want to be that guy.
This is also why we have that Swiss cheese model that I talked about earlier, because sometimes people will buy into that sunk cost fallacy and they'll be like, well, I spent all this money, I shouldn't say no to X, Y, and Z. And like, no, actually you should, because you paid all this money to have a good experience. And we want you to help yourself direct that. I'm going to go back to this gentleman right here, and then we'll come back to you. Sorry, I didn't mean to take your moderator slot.
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay.
In the games where you're, handed a character rather than making your own, are you usually given just like, this is your character and that's it, or are you given like, hey, here's like a couple characters you can pick, and if you ever end up in a situation where it's like, I'm not comfortable playing this character, how chill are people usually about, okay, we'll find you a different one?
That's a great question.
I love talking about character surveys. I have a lot of feelings. Okay, so there are some games where they're cast at the door. If you
Cast at the door means you show up and you
get a character.
Yeah.
My Magical Girl game is a cast at the door. I have a couple of very quick questions that I ask you. Do you want to play a villain? Do you want to play a hero? Or do you want to play just some guy? And we go from there. That is just because this is a con environment. I cannot send you a casting survey and things like that. For a longer game or for something like Intercon or a Blockbuster or a Parlor, the game runner might send you a survey with a list of questions like, do you feel comfortable playing romance? Do you feel comfortable playing like somebody who has a lot of goals? Or do you just want to sit here and vibe and take in the scenery? Do you feel comfortable playing somebody who's a murderer? Do you want to play a queer character? Do you want to play a parent? Sometimes they might give you a list of the characters and say, here are the characters, here's a little blurb about them, rank them, tell us what you like. Some will even go further and say, hey, why did you pick these characters? Yeah. And from there, they'll try to tailor a character to you that you will feel comfortable playing. There are some games that are kind of in between pre-written and build your own character or bring your own character. They're bespoke characters where they'll ask you like, hey, what do you like to play? This is the setting. What kind of character? And you might say, well, I want to play a super loyal knight who is scared of turtles. And we will try and give you that character.
So for MAGFest this weekend, we have a lot of games that are cast at the door. Usually those are you're going to pick from a pile of character sheets. And we are very chill about you looking through them and being like, oh, I think I like this one, or I'm stuck between those two. Can you help me pick? So do not be afraid of the sheet. And a lot of times when you have like a cast list and you're given a character after a character survey and you don't like the character, usually either they might ask you to drop because it is not like the game for you, or they'll be like, hey, maybe you can find someone to switch with. There's a lot of ways that's handled.
The biggest thing is to, if you are not feeling a character, to just let your game runner
please.
know. Maybe it's a case of, hey, I don't feel comfortable playing a romance. Okay, we can take the romance out. Mm-hmm. We can talk to the other person.
Sometimes it's as simple as like a friend of ours was like, oh, I got this character who's very who like has this very angry side to them, and I don't know that I'm comfortable playing screamy shouting. And I'm like, well, there's other ways to play anger. And she goes, well, it says on the sheet that they scream and cry. And I'm like, okay, you can absolutely talk to the GMs about that, I promise. Because sometimes, and she's been LARPing for what, 10 years?
Yeah.
And sometimes we all need that reminder.
Yeah.
All right, you had a question, and I want to get one more question because, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to ask if there's any kind of central schedule for the LARPs that you're running.
There sure is. You can find it on Guidebook.
Oh,
If
I
you
checked before there was a category for it, but is it just like
if you look up LARP on any of the days, you will be able to find our events. Go ahead.
There are certain characters, like making certain characters, there's kind of a bit of a spectrum from how serious a character can be to a little bit more of the wacky, zany, funny types of characters. I'm assuming this will eventually tie into the tone of the LARP specifically, but, is there necessarily kind of, if a group of people are playing super straight edge characters, can a little bit more of a cloudy character come in and just kind of interject in a certain capacity, or is it more common courtesy to have all of them kind of fit one mold?
So there's a difference between comic relief and tone fucking.
Yeah. I was gonna start off with the answer that most people will learn very quickly when it comes to LARPing. It depends on the LARP.
Yeah.
And yeah, there is a difference between I'm gonna play a silly little guy to add some levity, who is like a little bright spot, versus, okay, vampire. I've seen this with vampire LARPs, not Vampire the Masquerade, but just vampire LARPing in general, where if you're not careful on what kind of tone it is, you will have some people showing up playing Vampire the Masquerade and whatever that means. You will have some people showing up playing What We Do in the Shadows, and you will have some people showing up playing Lost Boys or The Interview with a Vampire. So if it's a pre-written game where the game designer has written all the characters, they will take into account, like, okay, this character is a cinnamon roll. This character is an edgelord, but they've made it work with the setting and the other characters.
Also, it's really fun to do like the Grumpy Sunshine sort of character connections. There's nothing more fun than a paragon of virtue and an absolute menace who are best friends and lovers and/or lovers. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Yeah, and in my experience in a lot of games where you make your own character, you usually get them kind of okayed by the GM. You'll give like here's like a paragraph little description of my character, and they'll be like, that doesn't really fit in our world. Let's work together to make it fit.
Do we have time for one more question?
No, it is 2. We're done. But you can come ask us after.
Yeah.
And we're going to Pied Piper some people up to the LARP room.
I am going to head to Exhibit Hall C because I have to go do something very gay.
I'm going to Pied Piper people up to the LARP
Piper
room.
people.
I'm going to Pied Piper my ass to get some food.
That's right. Thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
We will see you in the LARP room.
We will see you in the LARP room.